There are several reasons for conquest. First is religious conversion or crusade. The call from the church to spread its message, and Christians must spread their religion. It was a divine call to civilize the inferior people around the world. 30 Years' War between Catholic and Protestant that ended with Peace of Westphalia. The second one is political. Each country had different reasons. For example, Germany and Italy wanted to become great powers because of the national prestige. They wanted to be the best and had the biggest empire. The next one is economic influence. Industrial nations needed raw materials and natural resources, such as rubber from rainforests in Central Africa and Malay, timber from Indonesia and Malaya. New market to sell industrial product, for example, British in India and Malaya. Exploration of territories. Overseas investment, for example, constructing port, railway stations and roads. The next one is ideological causes. Belief in Anglo-Saxon. The next one is technological superiority. Steam engineering and railroads allow for easier and faster travel, increased exploration and improvement in communication. And the last one is geostrategic factor, which is Great Britain fought for controlling strategic enclave. Okay, now we move to the types of imperialism. Basically, there are three types of imperialism. First is settler colonies, which is Europeans settled themselves in the territories permanently. They took control of the territory. Then, after years, the territory would become independent. For example, Algeria, South Africa, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Second is trading companies. The countries were governed by a foreign power. For example, France and Germany would be the head of the government for their colonies. The state granted private companies large territory to administer. They were interested in exploiting the natural resources of the territories and employed racist policy. The native worked as slaves for those companies, and the military's governor used to keep the native under control. For example, India and African colonies. And the last one is protectorate. The country which its own government in fact, but under the control of a foreign power. For example, British in Malaya. Colonies consisted of independent native governments who demanded military protection from a colonial power. Most of the protectorates become subordinate to the protecting power that they lost their independent statehood. For example, Morocco, Egypt, Palestine, etc. What if the effect of imperialism? First, in terms of political crisis, creation of artificial boundaries causes problems between African tribes. Many African countries still suffer from violence due to border demarcations till today. Hatred and starvation were common among African enslavement of native people, for example, in African country. The second effect of imperialism is cultural crisis. Acculturation and assimilation has destroyed the native cultures in the colonies. For example, destruction of African culture. They, there was a language barrier between the native and the colonies. Loss of traditional culture and communities. The third one is economic crisis, land exploitation and destruction of traditional agricultural activities. The next one is increased international conflicts. Crisis in Balkans 1908 until 1914 due to different ethnicity. An Indo-European tribe were believed to be the first people that settled in Balkans areas, formerly Yugoslavia. The root of the crisis were not simply begun in 1990. It started before the birth of Christ and the problems grew during the Middle Ages. The crisis in Balkan dragged Europeans to the First World War. There were strained relationships during the World War II and the years following. The next effect is nationalist movement. Nationalist movement grew out of European imperialism and because of European boundary demarcations put African tribal rivals under the same government. The movement Pan-Africanism wanted to unite all Africans based on a common heritage. In 1950 until 1960, many new independent African nations were created. Besides that, in Malaya, the Malayan Union 1946 played a main role in awakening the spirit of nationalism among the Malays. Stage of Malay nationalism. Religious base level 1906 until 1926. Socialism and economic level. Kaum muda versus kaum tua 1926 until 1938. Political level 1938 onwards. Then also Chinese and Indian nationalism in Malaya since the Malayan Union of 1946. Then also Chinese and Indian nationalism in Malaya since the Malayan Union of 1946. French Revolution is important because it was the starting point of the shift of source of sovereignty from a king to the people. French Revolution, the arrival of a new era that symbolized the famous slogan, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Napoleon Bonaparte, a general, emperor, and enlightened despot, his rise and fall. Colonization of foreign power, chronology of foreign powers in Malaya, Portuguese, Dutch, British, Japanese, Communist, and British. Portuguese colonization for 130 years. Factor that attracted the Portuguese. Well, the spice trade tussle to spread Christianity, the impact of the Crusade. The King of Portugal encouraged his people to navigate to foreign lands. Factor that causes the fall of Malacca. International factor. Sultan Mahmud 1488 until 1511 failed to administer justice in ruling Malacca. The successor of Tun Perak, Tun Mutahir, was not of high caliber. Disunity among the Malays and Indian Muslim domination the palace court failed to provide a good trade service, especially in the port of high tech. Rampant corruption in the administrations. There, there was no coordination between the Kingdom of Malay State as much it created rivalry among them. For external factors, Portuguese military strength and better strategy and weaponry system. Impact of Portuguese colonization, the existence of an Eurasian community. Impact of Portuguese colonizations, the existence of an Eurasian community. Dutch colonizations 16 02. The Dutch East Indian Company was formed, dominated the spice trade in the Malay archipelago.